Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Mary. I am the lactation peer counselor at Open Arms, and this is our April's talk story. So welcome. I'm here with the awesome Betty and the awesome Faisa. Faisa and I have actually been working together for a while. We have a lactation lounge on Wednesdays with Open Arms, or we partner. And I'm really excited to bring her on here because she's like a powerhouse birth worker. She does it all. and I mean, like, I could say everything, but I would love for you if you would mind introducing yourself, Faisa.
Yeah, thank you for having me. The Pacific Islander Health Board, Mary, and of course, Betty. I'm really excited to be here today. So like Mary said, my name is Faisa Frole. I wear multiple hats. Some of those hats include, I am a licensed midwife. I'm also the founder and the director of Global Perinatal Services. I'm excited because I'm going to be doing a project with the PIH this summer, which is we're going to be training some doulas from this beautiful community. And so I'm really excited about this, and we'll talk more about that throughout the show. This is a show, right?
Yes, basically all about you.
Okay, cool.
And Betty, oh, I'm sorry.
Not sure if you wanted me to add any more, Mary.
Oh no, whatever you want to share with everyone. And we're also joined by Betty from the PI Health Board, outreach coordinator at the PI Health Board. So.
Thanks, Mary. I'm Betty. I'm with an outreach coordinator here with the Pacific Islander Health Board, and I'm really excited to talk with Mary every month. And today with Faisa, with the training that she's speaking about, is something that now I'm saying second time mom, but like I have a second child, so birth work and doulas, that's like my world right now, or my appreciation for things at the moment. And being able to allow our communities to get training for this, to go into that field, is really exciting for me. So thanks for being here, making time, and for everybody that's watching on Facebook and YouTube. We were off to a little late start and the links changed, but I hope if you can still go ahead and share this with your communities, that would be great. And if you have any questions, please just drop them in the comment section. We'll put them up for Faisa and Mary to answer, and me if there's something directed to me. But I'm just here to learn and to get to know more about how, like, you both are in a profession where before, like, hospitals and clinics in our communities, it was just something one person in the village did. Like, my grandmother was a midwife for our village before, and I mean, at that point there were still clinics, but she was a midwife, and I'm pretty sure that in her time it wasn't something she had to go get a certification for, because it was like something you learned and you were apprentice for, and you practiced it, and you were the go-to person for that kind of trade, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm one of 7 children. I was born in Somalia, and I was born at home by a midwife. So pretty much all of us, except my last sibling, the youngest, was delivered by the same midwife. So, and like you said, and that midwife, she didn't go to school, you know what I mean, for it. It was just something she sort of picked up from her great grandparents, you know what I mean? So It has always been an art where it's sort of about women serving women, you know what I mean? I mean, what better provider could you know what I mean? Could you want someone who knows what it feels like to be a parent, perhaps someone who lives in the community, someone who knows the culture, and you know what I mean? So it has always been a profession where women sort of support women,
right?
The midwifery role. And then, of course, the doula role, it is definitely different, but it focuses more on that, like centering the mother, like just the support, just being that support person for the birthing person, which is which is something that every woman, if you know what I mean, every birthing person, if this is something they want, they should be able to have access to, not just have access to, but also have access to someone who looks like them, and also someone who speaks like them, someone who shares same, traditional backgrounds, because, a support person, it's not just anybody. It just makes it even that much better if it is somebody that you feel comfortable with too. So, which is why I'm excited that, that your community is thinking about having women from, people from the community being trained to support people of the community. You know what I mean? There's just so much power in that.
Yes, a lot.
Yeah. Very empowering indeed. Is that what got you into birth work, or I've always wondered what got you into birth work?
Birth work. So I've done some interpreting services. I've worked for Harborview for quite some time. I think it was 2001 up until 2007 or something like that. And I worked as a certified medical interpreter. And through it, I've just seen more and more, like, women from my community, when they're birthing that intimate time, they prefer to have women interpreters present. So because of this, there was a lot of demand for women who wanted to do interpreting in the labor and delivery. So I've done a lot of that. And I've worked various different hospitals, birth centers, and things like that, which sort of exposed me to like different provider types. So, the OBGs, the family medicine, the, even midwives. There are different types of midwives. There's that, certified nurse midwives, and then there's also the, certified professional midwives, which is pretty much what I am. And then I'm licensed in the state of Washington too. So it really gave me appreciation of like just different provider types. And also I've gotten to see a glimpse of like how the treatment from these providers were varied too. So which sort of got me interested in becoming a midwife. So it was through my midwifery application requirements that I had to do doula training. And then through it, that's how I find out what a doula was. And when I did it, I was like, oh my God, this is so much needed in my community. Like, I need to do more of this. And and I did. At the time, I was a second trained Somali doula in Washington. And when I asked the doula that was before me if I could do, if I could mentor her, because I needed to get my 3 births before I could, do the certification. And she had told me that, it's really hard. Our community that doesn't understand what this services is. Like, people will say, yes, I'll call you during birth, and then they just don't. So I knew that there had to be a lot of outreach and a lot of just making people understand that there's a service that is really, really important for them to understand what it is, and that it could be a lifesaver, like just make a difference for them. So I did a lot of that. So as an interpreter, I had the access to a lot of pregnant people. So anyone that would listen to me, I'll talk to them about what a doula services is. And this is early 2000s, have you heard about this? And at the time also, there was just an outrageous amount of, people in the community were complaining about just high cesarean rates in the Somali community. And so to the point where some people were not going to the hospital after that 40-week visit. They'll just sort of stay home and then end up calling either the ambulance or just going to a nearby hospital. So there was a lot of that going on too. So as a result of that, I wanted to sort of, I thought maybe if I do a childbirth education, classes, sort of get these, people prepared before they go in, then, then they will be some sort of on the same level with the providers. Because for instance, sometimes a provider would suggest, let's just go ahead and rupture your water and then to speed up labor. And this would just, snowball to like, hours and hours of discussion and things like that, which is great. But I felt like there needed to be some understanding of what that entails. You know what I mean? Most often providers assume, that everyone knows what they're talking about, or sometimes you don't know you know what I mean? It's just like, on either extreme. So I did the Great Start childbirth education training. The moment I did the training, I got hired again to provide childbirth education training by Harborview's Women's Clinic. I did that for about a year and a half. And then I like more feedback I was getting, because when you're in labor, it's great that you have all this terminology, all this expectations of what to expect in labor, but the laboring person, like, when you're in labor and when you're in the thick of it, it's really hard to make some of the decisions that they want you to make, right? Mm-hmm. So it really, really helps to have there someone who is trained and who knows what's going on to sort of even, chew things up for you, even if you understand the language, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's just like, because you get in your own little bubble, that it's really hard to make decisions properly at that time. So I realized that a doula would be a great fit. Like, we need a doula for every woman who's wanting to have one in the room with them. So I got a bunch of people excited about being trained as doulas, and we did doula training, and then of course the organization I was working through at the time was had told us that it's great, but we don't have the funding to sort of reimburse every doula that attends a birth. So that's sort of what ignited me starting the organization. The organization originally was called Somali Doulas Northwest, because I am from the Somali community and I know what the need was. I wanted to meet that need before anything else. Mm-hmm. And then so things went off from there. So about a year and a half of being Somali Doulas Northwest, we started seeing interest. I started having people from other refugee and immigrant communities reaching out, coming to our office saying, we need to be trained as doulas too. What can we do? And also I had, pregnant folks calling, asking for if we have doulas for their, from their communities as well. So that sort of ignited the light bulb for me that we need to, this need is not just for the Somali community, but other refugee and immigrant communities are having the same. And so that's how Global Perinatal Services came to be, or GPS. And right now we have, oh my God, how many doulas have we trained? We have over 18 doulas, and combined they speak about 10 different languages, which is really exciting.
Really cool.
Yeah, which is really exciting. So some of the things that we offer two different types of doula programs. One is our community-based doula program. That one, it's just we have 2 full-time doulas that are Somali speaking, and they each have caseloads, a max of like 15. And then we have contract doulas who, it's a short-term services that they work with the pregnant person. So yeah, so we have those 2 doula programs. We have parent support groups that we offer. And then we offer child development program as well. So everything and anything that we do, I like in the organization to be reflective of the need of the community, because when you do that, then the programs are successful. If you just create a program and in your head it's great, but it's really not what the community is wanting or is ready for, it's really not going to be that successful. So that's sort of what drives the GPS and it's decision making as far as like the programs that we create.
Yeah, you have such great programs. I know you have like a father support group, and even within like your organization, you have the doula every month at the end of the month, right? You have the doula.
The doula cafe.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's great services that you provide, and just. Hey, Suad. What you provide for the community. And so, so it seems like having a birth worker present at your labor really changes the experience. Why do you think it is important to train people within our communities to become birth workers? I know you touched on it a little bit, but it's what other reasons do you see like popping up during births and in community that would facilitate having a birth worker?
Yeah, I think
mom's quarantine.
Yeah, I think, representation matters like a lot. And in this healthcare system, it's not always so welcoming. It's not always, so welcoming to people that look like us, right? Constantly, we are, we're advocating for the rights of our clients to be treated better, which shouldn't be the case, right? It's healthcare of all things, right? Like, it should be everybody's right. Like, everyone should be treated the same. But unfortunately, what happens is, if you are a Black or brown person, oftentimes, like, even when you make a complaint about certain things, you're not going to be believed. That, you know what I mean? Like, it's just as if we feel pain differently, as if we feel pain less, you know what I mean, than let's say a white mom, right? So it's always, we talk about, like, during the trainings, we talk about whenever, a person that looks like me, a client, is having issues like with preterm, you know what I mean, signs and symptoms. That's something that the doulas spend some time with their clients too, just educating and like reviewing what that looks like, right? And when the client should go in, if they feel X, Y, and Z. Oftentimes the doctors, when people go, they do review warning signs with them, but with a doula, it's not like, things get really, really chewed up, and like everybody, takes in information differently, and usually doulas are able to gauge that, you know what I mean, and deliver the message to the person properly without being biased, without saying anything about the clients, like like how many babies the client had. Sometimes there's also this stigma where when people go to the hospital and they're pregnant again, oftentimes I've seen people who go late in their second trimester or whatnot, just because people make remarks like, "Oh, you were just pregnant last year. Oh, you have enough kids. Are you know what I mean?" Like, comments like that. So it really, like just to go back to that preterm stuff, we encourage the clients when they go into the emergency or to see their, to see a provider, that, they don't just tell them, they don't just dismiss them, that they should insist on having a vaginal exam done. They should insist on having an ultrasound done to make sure, because we've had clients where they would go in and then they'll be sent back out. And then, you know what I mean? And the client would go in back again. And indeed, the woman was having a preterm, and sometimes it's too late. You know what I mean? So, so just advocating for people like that, it really, really goes a long way. And, I am a refugee, but I cannot at the same time speak for all the refugee communities, right? Like, every community, every community's needs are different. Every community has their own way of, delivering messages, which is why it's really, really important to have, a doula who's trained to serve, for instance, the Iraqi community, right? Or the Cambodian community, or, the Burmese community, you know what I mean? And so on. There's just a lot of power in having someone that looks like you. And also someone, like I said, language is one of the things, it's really, really powerful, right? Like, you walk into a room, when I was interpreter, I would, walk into a room and the clients just literally melt in front of my eyes the moment I say hello and introduce myself, and it's just like, oh my God, you're here now. Like, you can actually understand what I'm saying without having to have an interpreter there, directly. So that's one thing. And then with COVID, things have been even extremely difficult, because, as you know, most hospitals, they're limiting how many, support persons that you have. And believe it or not, we have moms who actually tell their partners to go home, and they want the doula to be with them, just because they know the doula is, they know the importance of having that doula there. They know the doula has had multiple births, and you know what I mean, that the doula can help them, better in navigating. And with COVID, the COVID pandemic, also the need of doula services has just spiked so high. People who weren't even otherwise thinking about getting a doula services are now calling up on us and asking for one too, just because it's uncertainty times, right? And like, people wearing masks, and then, people fearing that if they have their baby, and if the mom's temperature, spikes, the baby's going to be taken away. It's just so much stress that sort of goes in, that the doulas are able to come in and help alleviate some of that stuff from the parents. So, yeah.
it's really great to have someone in your corner advocating for you that can help you kind of guide you through the process, or just remind you, or just be there to support you. I know some doulas are maybe not, maybe pre-COVID, but have taken a support role for both the birthing person and their partner. But yeah, definitely. Yeah, with COVID, and it's nice to have someone, sort of a subject matter expert, or someone that understands more to navigate through that.
I was going to say, Mary, that is like 100% for my community. And again, not speaking on all of the tomorrows, but when I was expecting in 2016 with my first child, the first thing my mother said was, "Oh, so did your doctor schedule your C-section?" And I look like average height on Zoom, so I love Zoom. But then you meet me in person, you're like, "Hey," because I'm trying to grow taller. But because of my size, or also just because of the way our island has been like super westernized, and hospitals and clinics are the things, all the generation before me, and maybe even the generation before my mom, it was like, you have to go to the doctor. And it was like a C-section was always the first choice before like a natural home birth that you like, that maybe even my grandmother experienced herself. So having a doula, aside from the like being inside the labor room, it's that childbirth education outside to tell even, you know, like my mom's generation, like it's okay to prepare for a vaginal delivery, no matter what size your daughter is. And I feel like it's really important, or maybe our younger moms or people who've experienced like what the issues are in the hospitals for birthing mothers, they have this understanding of there is education that is more recent that our like my mom's generation isn't really keen on, but they're also in that generation that was like just trying to survive with what they were being told they had to do. And then we come into our generation where we're still leaning on her generation, but still learning other things. And so the generation after me is like, okay, what are my options? Where before it's like my generation's like, we have options. And if you're in my generation, you're like, I've always had options. Like there's still a lot of us who don't know the options. And so having someone before you even enter the delivery room say, these are your options, like that's awesome.
It is.
I also wanted to say that, so I'm 5 months postpartum. My girl turns 5 months in a few days. In our first pregnancy or delivery, I said we wanted my partner to cut the cord. Had an emergency C-section. I was trying to do the whole bed. I was like 1 centimeter away. So when it came to the second birth, I was really adamant about having a vaginal delivery because I was like, I could do 1 more centimeter. Like we could do it. And I knew I wanted a doula, and thankfully, like I received one through Open Arms before I started working with the health board. And because there was a doula there after I delivered, and my two top birth preferences was, I think it was like skin to skin, and then make sure he cuts the cord. So as soon as I gave birth, because the doula was there, I said skin to skin. And they're like, we can't do it right now. And then the second thing I was like, cut the cord. Like those came out of my mouth. And I don't think I could have done that without having someone there to back me up, because as a first time parent, or just even a seasoned parent, if you're in a room with a bunch of people who you've never met before, and they don't look like you, and you have hesitations about a hospital or clinic setting, it's really intimidating to even speak what you actually want. Like it's too hot in here, or it's too cold, or close the drapes, because you expect that. Or I feel like sometimes you get it's a past thought, maybe you get what they're giving you, and you can't ask for anything better.
I agree with that. As a first-time mother, definitely, I was just like, yeah, whatever you say, you know best. And even like 5 years later, when I had my youngest daughter, same thing. And there's so many people in the room with you. I didn't know what a doula was at that time, but now that I know more, I wish I did have a doula or a birth worker there to act as an intermediary, someone that you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
That and what you said, Betsy, like just seeing them, having their presence remind you of, oh yeah, I want these things. I didn't know that there was other ways, options of giving birth. So
yeah, no, that's the key, just knowing that there are options, right? That's a really big key. And then when you have someone, when you've been like planning and because to be honest, like you go in for your OB, appointment, and the time that the provider spends with you is like 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, if they're generous, right? And then most of the time it's the nurses or the MAs that you are interacting with a lot. So there isn't a lot of time where they spend more of like just going over what to expect. And you know what I mean? Sometimes they give you a printout, like who wants a printout, So, and traditionally folks from our communities, they don't attend childbirth education classes either, because
right.
It's one of those privilege things, because people are, either between jobs and what I mean, the times that it's being offered. Yeah. And I've also seen people who want to attend, but then again, they're like, it's going to be so awkward because people that look like me are not going to be there. I'll be like a sore thumb there. Right. So, really, but when you have a doula and it's someone that you can call up on, ask questions, oftentimes our doulas, when the client leaves from the provider's office, the first thing they'll do is they'll call the doula, like, hey, my doctor's telling me that next time I'm going to drink, something sweet, and they're going to, check my sugar. What's that about? So they could have asked the providers. Sometimes it just feels like there isn't enough time, Then the doula is able to, explain it to them what that looks like, right? So one thing I wanted to say is, yes, doulas, will help you, talk to you about your options, and then we'll advocate for you, to help you create a birth plan. So that way, like Betty, you were saying, being able to, do skin to skin, being able to, have the partner cut the cord and all that stuff. They'll sort of help make sure that, of course, so long as everything is, normal and it's not an emergency, it's not happening, you know what I mean? They'll help you carry out all this, your birth plan or your wishes. But I also want to say that, because most people think that doulas are all about, they want to support, women or pregnant people who are wanting to have natural birth only. And like doulas are like natural birth junkies, right? So that is not the case. That's something I want to, just a disclaimer I want to throw out there, that doulas, we fulfill the wishes and dreams of the client, right? Because oftentimes what's neglected in the medical system is just a person's psyche of how the whole thing, expired, right? Like we want to make sure that woman and, or that person felt like they were included in the care that they got, that things were not just being done to them, things were being done with them, right? So that's where the doula comes in, just as like overall satisfactory of the person, the person's birth, because that's very important, right? That's something that usually, numbers can't really capture, right? So that's one thing, but the doulas, we don't do everything by all means necessary natural, right? So people hire doulas who have scheduled C-section. Oftentimes we are able to explain to to the client what an epidural entails, you know what I mean? Some oftentimes better than the nurses themselves, you know what I mean? Because the client comes in and they already have preconceived message about don't get epidural, it's going to slow down your contraction time. It's going to make the baby not come. It's a way of them having. So we are able to explain, in a way to the clients that, like, yes, there is a chance of, X, Y, and Z happening, but also a lot of, people get this and they do just fine, or like, if you want, let's have the doctor come back in and explain it to you more, to the point where clients do change their mind. And so, and when a doula is also present, if a crisis occurs, the doula is able to say to the women, I know you wanted to do some things differently, but what they're saying is true. You know, the numbers, like you hear your baby's heart tone, like something has shifted. Like this is really emergency. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and the women are able to, you know, they're able to take that message from the doula easily, and they trust the doula because there was a trust that has been building all this time. You know what I mean? And they're not just feeling like, oh, this doctor is wanting to rush me because they have X, Y, and Z other priorities to attend. So, so I just wanted to put out there. So doulas don't do things, you know, by all means necessary, natural. That's not how we operate. We do things, you know, we want to carry out the wishes of the client first and foremost. That's the number one priority of the doula. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, because I didn't think about that. And you're right. Like, you think about doulas, and I feel even in like my generation of cousins, we're all in that parenting stage for a good handful of us. You say doula and they're like, what's that? And then the first thing that you think about is like natural crunchy, and then what you probably see in movies maybe, but you don't think of it as a support person. And when you said this, like, it changes your psyche. Because of COVID, I couldn't meet my doula in person, and even meeting my doula, like, open arms was so great about helping me to connect to one, because I requested it so late into, I was already in my third semester. I mean, I think I was like a few weeks away. Then I actually gave birth a week early, so it was even a shorter meet and greet. So even though I didn't really get to build a long, you know, like 4 weeks of getting to know this doula, just knowing that she was there for me gave me the strength to be like, I can say whatever was on my mind and not feel bad about it. Whereas if she wasn't there, I'm sure my hesitation and my partner's hesitation, he'd probably look at me like, ooh, did you just say that out loud?
Yeah. It's really, it just gives you that power, that confidence that you can ask, you know, what you need a lot easier. You know what I mean? Because there's always this thing that the birth, you know, the Black birth workers that I know, that we usually say, it's sometimes when women that look like us are in the hospital having their babies and they ask for things, they're just being difficult. That's how it's been seen at times. But then again, a white woman asks for the same thing, she's exercising her right? So it's really, like you were saying earlier, like the window is open. Like even that you don't want to ask because you're too timid, or you know what I mean, or whatever the case is. But when a doula is there, right? Doulas, like if a mom has an epidural, like doulas know what to do. You know, like you need extra pillows to sort of help you support, because now you cannot, you know, your lower body, half of your body is not functioning. You know what I mean? And so, but they still want to make sure that you are feeling comfortable, right? So if the room is getting too cold, like, you know, they'll ask you, like, forget about how we feel. How do you feel? You know what I mean? And then just to change that, just to match your own comfort. So there's a lot. And something was earlier said about the partners too. I think it was Mary that was saying, the research has also found, you know, when there's a doula that's working with a couple, you know, there's so much benefits for even the father too, you know what I mean, or the other partner, and just getting them involved, right? Oftentimes partners feel like they're bystanders to the whole thing because it's not, you know what I mean? Like they're just watching it happening to their significant other. But the doulas will make sure that the partners are involved in it as well, in the birth, right? Like you were saying earlier, you know, being able to cut the cord, you know, being able to, show the partner how to, you know, do certain massages to sort of help you relieve some of the discomforts that you're having, so that partners are actually incorporated in the care as well, which sort of gets that bonding, you know, thing started to a better, you know, to a better place as well. And then there's that breastfeeding aspect of it too, you know. Women or pregnant people that have employed doulas, you know, from early on and have had that connection and all that, they tend to also want to initiate breastfeeding, you know what I mean? And also just the duration of it is increased as well, because again, you have that support. Breastfeeding is one of those things that you have to have support in order for it to, you know, in order for you to even start, and also how long you do it too. So yeah, I mean, the benefits are just, it's countless, you know. Yeah, it is countless. Yeah.
And thank you so much for sharing all the benefits of having a doula and a birth worker at there with you through even before the birthing process even begins. I think it's such a empowering element for our communities, and a great option to have, during your, especially as a new parent or a younger parent. And I love how you're providing this, the training, the doula training. I think that's just amazing that you're, um, I'm at a loss for words because there's just so much. There's just so much. There's just so much that having services like this can do for communities. And thank you, Faisa, for providing the training for people to go into their communities and be that support system. And I know that you're having a training soon in sometime in June. I was wondering if you could go through like an overview of what that would look like if someone were to take your training.
Yeah, definitely. So like I was saying earlier, I was like the second Somali person that was trained. And I remember, and that person, she was not really practicing, right? I remember when we would go to conferences. I don't know if you all know Yvette McKee. Yvette used to work for Open Arms too, and she's a social worker now. Yeah. So her and I will be the only people of color at these meetings, right? Like early 2000s. Yeah. So if I don't go, it will be her by herself or vice versa, right? So, and then, more and more, we start having more and more, birth workers, Black birth workers being trained and as such. But I wanted to make sure that there was enough representation as well for also the immigrant refugee communities, which is why it was an idea of mine to just sort of, saturate the birthing world with different people, you know what I mean, with doulas that look different. So, which is why I had, started my organization. So with this training that's coming up, which I'm like just so excited that the PIHB is even thinking about doing this, is going to be a 6 session long training, and I am able to. So I am Pacific Association for Labor Support is the local certifying body in Washington. They had recognized my doula training. So this one. I know, right? It is really awesome. So I've been after the DONA one, the Doulas of North America, for the past 2.5 years, and I haven't even had any. The application hasn't even been started yet. Anyways, but I'm really glad that PALS has agreed for me to, because it's great to do the doula training, but then most folks want to go ahead and get certified in it, right? And so it's really important to have entities like PALS who are willing to give you the option, you know what I mean, who are going to be certifying the folks that I trained. So, and when the end of the 6 sessions, folks have the option of being certified, becoming certified as doulas. So the 6 sessions, it'll be Monday and Wednesdays. We'll be doing it from 4 to 6, 4-hour-long session. And my goal is, I want, by the time folks are done with the training, to be able to feel like I'm good to go. I can either get hired by another entity or I can actually do a solo practice. So I'm going to be pouring into folks all of my experience, all of my expertise throughout the years. So that way people feel comfortable in doing this when they're done. So the classes will include the 4 hours. It's not just going to be me regurgitating back information to you. It's going to be, really interactive. There will be homework that will be sent out, not too hard. Homework will be like, go and talk to, people about, find people in your family community, ask them if they know what a doula is. You know what I mean? Something simple as that. Simple, but things that really ignite conversation. So that way, by the time they come through, the community knows that, these people have been getting training as well. So that's how it's going to be. And then there's going to be videos that we will be watching, various videos. Some people have given birth themselves, but they've never seen a birth. You know what I mean? So
Mhm,
this would be a really good way to prepare them what that looks like. We'll review the anatomy of the female organs, so yeah, it's going to be really, really cool. And I'll have some panels, to come through, a doula panel to come through,
Oh,
share their
cool.
experiences about what it's like to do doula work. So doula work is not for everybody, right? Because you have to realize, especially people who have families, sometimes you really have to think it through. And then it's really important to have really supportive partners, because birth is unpredictable. And then for some odd reason, most folks go into labor at night, right? 2-3 o'clock in the morning. And then, and some births can last, a day, 2 days, sometimes even 3 days, especially during the pandemic, where when you go into the hospital, they won't allow you to go in and out of the room. So I want people to have clear expectations, right? There have been people in the past, when they do the training, they're either like, yes, this is for me. And then there are people that are like, no, thank you. I just cannot imagine myself waking up 3 in the morning, and driving somewhere. So it really will weed people out, people who are cut out for this work and people who are not. So yeah, I'm excited to be doing this with you all.
I'm excited for it.
I'm sorry, but
no, go ahead. I was just gonna say, and I've said this in the previous doula interviews that we had. When I heard about the training, I was like, "Ooh, I want to take the training," and I shared it with my sister. She was like, "I don't think you should," and I was like, "That'll be so good." And she's like, "You're too type A. Like, I'm gonna be there, like, push it out."
No, we need type A. Seriously, we need type A doulas too. Yeah. You'll never know. Like, sometimes you come through and you do the training and you're like, this is perfect. You know what I mean? Like, I could really do this. Or sometimes you come through and you're like, this is great, but not right now. Not now in my, with whatever I have going on in my life. So whatever it is, I encourage people who want to be trained to come through. I do also encourage people, the organization, if they're thinking about, for instance, hiring, 6 people, to train at least 4 more, because you will have people who, in it will realize, like, what, one of my last training I did was, I did it for the Ethiopian community, and 2 of the people, they were like, they reached out, they wanted to be trained, they were excited about it, but towards the end, they were like, one had a full-time job, and she's like, I can't I can't let go of my full-time job just to go and, run off to someone else having, giving birth. And the other one was like, I'm just now starting a family. This is just not, I can't do this, So I was glad that they had realized it. Even though it was like, they realized it like class 4 or 5, and I was like, you should have known that, like, after the first class that we did. Nonetheless,
I laid this out on day 1. The syllabus was right there. Just kidding.
I know.
I probably would be the same too. I'd probably get so into it because it was something that was on my mind, and because I want to be, not that I want to be the first at everything, but I know there's a need, and if the opportunity is in front of me and not anyone else is aware of it or can just jump to it, I want to be that person. And then I get into it, I'm like, just kidding, I can't finish the last 3. That's me with those free courses. It's horrible. No,
nonetheless, like, you can really have the conversation, even if you don't after the training, if you don't start, working as a doula, there's still conversations that you can have with, what I mean, with the community, with the young pregnant folks, what I mean? Like, there's still ways that you can advocate for birth,
right. As an unclear, like somebody, an elder. And even if you do go through the training or part, you could, and like with the student that was starting a family, you could always go back to being a doula, right? Like, it's something.
Now you have to train out of the way, at least.
Always. Hop back into it if you wanted. Love it, right?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mary. Sorry, I have like 5 more questions.
Oh no, I wasn't saying anything.
And they're not any of the talking points, because as I'm listening, I'm just like, okay, so
don't worry about talking points. We're like beyond talking points now.
So, well, first I wanted to point out that Lisa asked, will the summer session be in person or virtual? I know that our dates are not 100% set, and then just as a rough estimate is Monday and Wednesday 4-hour-long sessions for the 6 weeks. Can you clarify that?
Yeah. So it's going to be virtual that we're going to be doing it. And then, the 4 hours are set. That's usually what I feel like the content, that's what it usually takes for me to, I have PowerPoint presentations for each session that we go over. So 4 hours each session, half hour of that is just like checking in, especially if there's been homework that was sent out, just seeing how that, people, how that felt for folks and things like that. I do a couple of a 5-minute and then a 10-minute break in it too, just to give people some time to stretch their legs. But before you know it, 4 hours over so fast, honestly. And we do it towards the evening just because, there are people who have other jobs, other full-time jobs. So that way they get a chance to still attend as well. So, yeah, I hope that answers her question. Yeah.
And then Jamila says, go Faisa, excellent job. I'm not like doing the exclamation marks as I should because I'm like, am I too close to the speaker here?
Yeah, you're totally fine.
So the two questions I have a few cousins who are expecting this year and a sister-in-law. So maybe I should.
I don't know what it is, but I was just talking to somebody earlier too. She was like telling me a lot of people she knows are expecting. There are a lot of people who are expecting this summer. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Is that the same for you all?
So ours, well, there's a couple this summer, and then in the fall. Like I feel like every season there's going to be a new baby shower.
Yeah.
Even when I bring up the word doula to them, so what I was going to say is, I know this sounds really superficial, maybe is the right word, but I was not open to having a doula until a friend from college said, oh, I know, I loved it when my doula massaged my back. I was like, what, they massage you? So so in my mind, I'm thinking, what are the points? Because we're young moms, we're first time moms, or we're second, third child, fourth child, but still like young parents who are just taking advice from, again, like I told you, like my mom and her cousins who don't know the options, and we're not in this world, or they're not in this world yet. So for me, the hook was they massage you. And I know when I said that to a cousin, she was like, what do they do? And so I wanted to know what you found in your community was like the hook benefit to encourage moms to have a doula. And then the second question before we go is, what is this is also like, I don't want to put a box or a frame on who can become a doula, but what are your interests? What should one person's what's the 2 or 3 interests that a person should have that would be really successful at enjoying the training and using it as a profession and not just something that they casually go to and then see that it's not, I don't know, like I went to college and I'm 100% that college person that didn't use their degree the way my school advertised it. But also I'm from Ireland, so the industry wasn't there anyway. But those are the 2 things I wanted to ask was like, what's the benefit that you see your community saying, yes, I'm still on that, connecting with the doula now, and then who do you see being
becoming? Yeah, definitely good question. So it is a good, like for different people, it's different things. One of the ones especially for my Somali community that people would regurgitate towards more wanting to hire you would be if they've had C-section in the past and they're trying for vaginal birth after C-section, right? Because then they would go ahead and reach out to you. Sometimes there would be, the doctor is telling them that they're going to do induction and they want to, there's there's a fear that induction leads to C-section. So they will, call you when something is going on. You know what I mean? Like when there's a low amniotic fluid in mom, or mom is she has gestation diabetes, and they need to get baby out before baby gets grows large, and all that stuff. So when there is something going on, there's a condition, there's a reason, they will reach out, right? Because they are trying really hard either to have that vaginal birth after C-section, or they're trying to help avoid C-section as well. And then the other one is not having like close family members here, like if they have subsequent children at home, or like other kids at home, and they don't have anyone else to sort of watch the kids. So the partner will watch literally will drop the mom off at the hospital, and then we'll go home with the kids while the doula takes over there. So that's another hook, so to speak, that people are finding it more beneficial to just have someone because they know that sometimes family members, like friends or whatever family members, they want to come visit and then leave after a couple hours, right? But with a doula is not going to she's not going to leave up until you have that baby. So it's really nice to sort of have, it's kind of like just a constant support that you can count on, because if a doula that you're assigned to is at another birth or can't attend because she's not feeling well, then that doula will have a backup. So there's always somebody that will be there for that birthing person. So those are some of the reasons. And of course, the massage helps definitely, it really, really does help. And just someone who, especially people like, doulas who themselves have been a mom, you know what I mean? Or like know what's going on. So that way they can help navigate, or just reassure them, you know what I mean, that what they're going through is normal, and etc. So some of the traits a doula should have, in my opinion, not everyone has a doula quality, right? So one important thing for particularly people from my community is to make sure, that the people that I hire are people who are well respected in the community, they're people who keep private stuff private, right? And because as a doula, you really have to guard the person's privacy, because you are being exposed to the person's really, very delicate moments in their lives. Sometimes during that, you will see interactions that they have with their partners, interactions that they have with their own mothers. You know what I mean? That things that people don't want other people in the community knowing about. So you really need to be able to be someone who you see what you see and you leave it there once you leave at that birth, or from that person's home visit. And so this was something we had to reassure the community that, because if a doula leaks something out that was, that's private for that client, then that doula can actually lose her job too. So this was really something that, because people don't want to have, like I said, the community is small. You know what I mean? Like our communities are really small. Like everybody knows everybody. We all shop at the same halal store. It's really, really small. So it's very important that that the doula is someone that the community can trust. That has that history of like gaining the trust of the community. So that's what, sometimes we tell people, even when you see a client, of yours in public, you can't just, unless they say hi to you, you can't say hi to them, because you want to, you know what I mean? You don't know if other people in their family know that they had a child, So you don't want to like just call them out and say, hey, how are you? How's the child? No, that's none of your business. If they approach to you and say hello to you, then that's a different story. So very, being able to keep that client's, privacy intact is really, really important, this line of work. So making sure that we all know people in our communities that like to spread, things that don't, you know what I mean, that don't keep things to themselves. You don't want to hire someone like that to be a doula, because especially if you're in an organization and you want to keep your, the integrity of your organization, you want to really make sure that the people that you're attracting or hiring are people that will carry your name, very well. Yeah. And of course, someone who's passionate about just supporting, supporting women, supporting, birthing people. So when you have passion, that comes through, you know what I mean? Regardless, like if you're called, 1 a.m. in the morning, you're up and about, because it's something that you love to do. So yeah, and then there's a specific guidelines about, if you can't attend a birth, you cannot just not take a call. You really need to, you really need to let the coordinator know that something came up for me, I can't be on call for this person. So you can't just drop it, right? So that's another thing too. Once you make a commitment, you have to fulfill it. So, and those are some of the things I think that you should be looking for in someone who's wanting to become a doula. Yeah.
Thank you. That really helps.
Thank you, Faisa. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and I feel like every time we talk, I learn something new, and in this case, like a lot of new great things. And I'm really excited about the doula training coming up in June.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you so much for making time for us. I know that you wear many hats and have a lot going on, so I thank you.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
Well, take care, everyone. We'll see you next month. Enjoy the sunshine.
Whatever's left of it, right? All right. I'll talk to you all later.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Of course. Yeah,
Bye.
bye.